Okay, so I've been biding my time with this one, but I think it's time that we address the Justin Tucker situation. As many know, the Baltimore kicker had his worst season by a long shot, and while many were ready to chalk it up to the fact that, well, he's just getting old and everyone's gonna have a down year, boy howdy, when the year ended, we learned what was really probably on his mind all season, and that's that he was gonna be hit with the hit piece of the century, the realization that he was about to become Deshaun Watson 2.0. From the article that is now behind a paywall, he was accused of inappropriately exposing himself, inappropriately rubbing body parts against therapists, and a few other allegations that I'm not going to get into the weeds of, but all of these acts occurred between the years of 2012 and 2016, and while massage rooms don't have cameras to corroborate what the women who were working there were saying, the sheer number of accusers now sitting at 16 but originally just being 6, the consistency of what they all claimed happened and the fact that none of them knew each other, and in my opinion, the most damning evidence on all of this are the handful of tweets and Facebook posts dating all the way back to the mid-2010s that seem to hit at the fact that this was a pretty open secret. On top of this, reading through every post about it, there's typically going to be somebody who at least claims to have friends in the Baltimore masseuse industry, and the general vibe is that it's a not well-kept secret that Tucker was not a person you'd necessarily want to surface. So with all of these accusations going on, Tucker pretty much is forced to respond, and he's going to come out with this statement right here. It has a really strong opener that these allegations are unequivocally false, which is later followed up with the fact that he says that the article takes innocuous or ambiguous interactions and skews them out of proportion. So this went down January 30th, and it's pretty clear it's been looming for a while because this well-written, lawyer-approved document was out only but a few hours after the article dropped, and to me, it became clear at this point that this was a thing haunting him all season due to the breadth and seriousness of the allegations. But since the initial allegations dropped, 10 more massage therapists have come out to speak against Tucker, which doesn't look great for him, and once again, he is forced to speak out. But this time, instead of making a public statement on his official Twitter, he goes to a media site known as Outkick. It's a right-leaning news source, and now personally, I take the facts of a news source over the political affiliation of it. But it does strike me as odd that you would run to any political-leaning news source over the one that you think is going to get you the best reach on your news. Because the people most likely to read that news source are going to be people that you would want to see, and the problem is, right, is that it feels like just an extremely calculated move in a time when people want transparency, openness, and not calculation. They just want facts. It's kind of like the same vibe as when a person who's done something wrong runs to a left-leaning news source to claim that there's been some sort of discrimination against them. That's the vibe I get when somebody does something wrong, runs to a right-leaning news source to claim that they are getting shaken down. Most importantly though, from his release statement came his version of receipts, where the first of which comes from the owners of one spa who gave a written statement backed by a law that none of their employees ever complained about Justin Tucker, and that in his time at the spa, they did not hear anything bad about Tucker's reputation while there. Now this doesn't particularly move me, but there's also an email from one of the workers that accused him, saying like, oh, well, it was a pleasure serving you all these years, and this email was sent to him after he left to move back down to Texas. And while it's okay, and I would argue even normal, to still be professional with somebody who might have wronged you in this manner, it is, at the very least, at the surface level, somebody who is now coming out against him at one point after accusing him, saying something at least speaks in his defense that maybe things are being blown out of proportion. Although I'm not convinced that this is like the world's greatest piece of evidence, it's something on his behalf. And the worst part about all of this is that since everything is happening behind closed doors, it's always going to be a lot of he said, she said, he did, she didn't do stuff. And we get to this spot where we're at right now, where you've got a lot of accusations. You've got Tucker who just outright, flat out denies all of it. So we, the people who are the onlookers, kind of have nothing to go off with. Do we believe that 16 people are all making up a story and all corroborating together to try to shake down Justin Tucker, despite the fact that there's not really been a lawsuit announced yet, that they just want to ruin his life? I don't personally believe that. Or do we believe that Justin Tucker didn't do anything to any of these people, and thus every single one of them is lying top to bottom. Not sure I believe that either. Okay, so we're kind of at an impasse here. Unless one side can admit to lying on all accounts, we're probably never gonna know the full truth, which brings us to what happens next, okay? So far, the GM and the head coach have both said that they're looking into it. They are going to take this very seriously, but there's also this kind of aspect that they are waiting for the NFL to finish their investigation. This is a bit of a nothing burger. All that means is that they're going to defer whatever statements they have to make about Tucker, about the whole situation, until the NFL completes its investigation and tells them how to feel about it. I don't necessarily blame them for taking this. It's a very dicey situation. A lot of times, you know, the people who act this way towards the people that they have employed to do these sort of things on them are not going to act a similar or even recognizable way to their friends or their colleagues, which is why there's kind of like this gut punch of like, wow, we never would have seen this coming, is because assuming these allegations are true, it's also common for people who do this kind of stuff to not present that side of themselves to people who they don't need to present it to, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that it is true. I'm just saying for people who have known him for a long time to feel like this is out of nowhere is not a crazy statement, in my opinion. Now, I do think it needs to be taken seriously, and due to Justin Tucker's lack of performance on the field, I think the Ravens were already looking at potentially going another route at kicker, or at the very least bring in competition, but that has definitely doubled down. They are likely going to be looking to this year's draft class for somebody. It's stacked with good kickers, so we will just have to see, but that should have you guys caught up all to date. So here's the just quick recap. Initial thing came out. 6 people accuse Justin Tucker of misconduct. He comes back, says it's all unequivocally false. 10 more people come back. He comes back with some receipts, one of which showing that one spa owner has admitted that they didn't hear anything about him, and that another one of the accusers has said that it was a pleasure to work with him during his time after she had alleged that the incident had happened. So that's just something to chew on. Like I said, I don't think that is a home run piece of evidence, but it is some level of evidence that might persuade your thinking one way or another. Love to know what your guys' thoughts are. Really crazy situation, and I'll try to keep you guys up to date if anything further breaks. I just can't imagine something bigger coming out after all of this.